All right, to get things started, uh, right, I am going to complete our talk about punctuations. We were almost done the last time. There's just like a little bit left, and we get done with that little bit. By the way, Mohammed, on right? Have you gone through the videos, recordings for the previous lectures? Right, I did share the link on the group. So hopefully they were of some help. Okay, so we've done, and we have Muhammad Haris. Welcome to class, beta. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, and so right, we have just two or maybe like three short like bit of explanation for the punctuations left. And so what we have is the single quotation mark. We've done the regular quotation mark the last time. Now, for the quotation mark, generally there is no difference in between using the double quotation and the single quotation. And I say generally because technically there is. And that technicality comes in depending on what you're saying and how you're saying it. Okay. So for this, for the single quotation mark, right? If you're writing something, and this would be useful in your narrative if you choose to do something this way, is in you writing a quote within a quote. All right, so how does that work? Okay, so how is this a quote within a quote? Right, so Bilal confessed, and so we're going to say what he's saying, so that's a quote. So we've got the double quotation marks at the start and at the end for the whole thing. And then you've got the single quotation marks over here, right? Don't go outside. As you can see, I picked that from the previous example, right? And right, the mother said, don't go outside. So don't go outside. And so that's what mother said. And so within what Bilal is saying, he is referring to what someone else said. And so that is a quote within a quote. And so to differentiate between those two, the main quote, which is Bilal's, is put in with double quotation marks, whereas what he is quoting, that's the quote within the quote, is put in with single quotation marks. Okay, so again, that is a technical difference. If, for example, this dialogue, or if we just go back right over here where we talked about quoting text or speech or something, right, where we use double quotation marks, generally it's not that particular, and so you might possibly be able to put in single quotation marks as well for this, right, and you won't be penalized as such. All right. Okay, After the single quotation mark, we have, so we're done with that. Done with the apostrophe and the quotation mark and the same. We have the ellipsis and the bracket. Okay, and what this does is among other things, it shows omission of text. Right, so how does that work? Okay, so right, this is some girl who's playing hide and seek with her friends or whatever the scenario is. And so, right, she started to count, and then we start writing as a quote, right, showing her counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we're not going to write it out all the way up to 10. Okay. And right, and so after the 4, we put these 3 dots, which are the ellipses, and that is showing the omission of the text. Right, in this case, we are clarifying it all the way up to 10. So, right, that's just telling us how much did we omit. So we omitted like 6 numbers. And then she went to find them. Right, omission of text can also work in this way. For example, right now, I can't, I don't have an example to write it out, but I just explain it verbally, and right, just let me know if the explanation is clear enough. And so, right, in a piece of writing, if you're quoting a piece of writing, right, so if you're quoting a piece of text, or if you're quoting someone's speech, right, in text, and so a lot of things are written, a lot of things are said, and so what you do is you write, right, the first, like, one part of the speech, or the text or whatever, which is relevant to what you want to say, and then there's other stuff in between which is not relevant. And so what you do is you put the ellipsis to show that you're skipping out, and then right later on when the second relevant part comes in, and then you continue from there. So that's another way the ellipsis can be used. This particular usage probably won't, you won't need to do it so much in your 1, 1, 2, 3. Right. Another thing that you can use for effect in your narrative is to show thought. For example, you're writing, use my handwriting. As you're probably aware, it's not the best. But now to make it obvious, I've used the phrase "I wonder if," and I'm going to put an ellipsis after that. And you can very well do this, right? For example, in a narrative, your character is, you want to show that your character is thinking about something, right? And you also want to create like suspense, maybe reveal it later on. And so what you can do is, I wonder, or he stopped, or to add drama, right? He stopped, right? And so this shows like a gap or your character's thinking process and something. Again, something to be used carefully. What I'm doing right now is obviously just telling you how it can be used. How you'd actually go on to use it comes with practice, right? So if it's something you want, it will create really good effect, right? If you do manage to use it properly, because the ellipsis or the semicolon, these are punctuations that are not commonly used, right? And so if you do manage to use them properly, they will weigh nicely towards your grade. uh, Lastly, I mean, we have the brackets, I believe, but they're not as relevant, right? So I'm going to skip on those, especially, I mean, right? So the square brackets and the curly brackets really aren't relevant. The regular brackets are kind of like, you know are kind of like commas. If I just put in an example for those brackets, just to show you, and then we'll move on to learning how to paragraph, because that is again something that students struggle with. And I'll show you like a text and ask you to paragraph it. And so for the brackets, right, and this is similar to what we did with the comma and the M dash, the longer dash, right? And this will become clearer with the example. All right, Jack and Jill, and then the brackets you have who were brother and sister, both had red hair, and so, right, what you actually want to say, the actual sentence is Jack and Jill both had red hair, and so you've got the brackets. And what you could have also done inside the bracket is put commas, because you learned that commas are used to separate additional information. Right? You could have used the M dash as well, because that is one thing. Right? That's something we learned that the M dash does as well. And so that again goes to show that the like in some cases the punctuations are interchangeable, right? You can use one for the other. Again, it depends on how you want to present your text and what effect you want to achieve using it. Okay, so that's done. Now we're going to talk about paragraphs. Okay, any questions about the punctuations before I move on? I would take that as a no. Okay, so paragraphing is something that you are required to do not just by Cambridge, but when you're writing in general, whatever language it is that you're writing in. And by language, I mean languages used for communication, not like computer languages, coding and all of that. So right, and the question is like, why do you need to paragraph, right? So why? And so, right, it is for the sake of organizing. No, to organize your text, right? Make it more readable, right? Easier to manage. And these are like all related. Right? Separate ideas, right? Create flow. And that is something that, I mean, it's one way of creating flow, because you can imagine if you have like this very long chunk of text that is going on for at least half a page, maybe even one page. I've actually checked, some pieces of writing where the student just didn't bother. In fact, not just some, like a lot. Okay. So where students just don't bother to punctuate at all. I saw a paragraph, right? Punctuation is another issue. They don't bother to paragraph at all. And so what you have is from beginning to end, you have this one very long paragraph, right? And it becomes difficult to read, right? So it becomes more manageable, and all of the points I've written on the board. So yeah, maybe like one or two things which are slipping my mind right now, but you get the point, right? Paragraphing is important. Now, how to do it? That's the next question, right? At what point in your writing will you paragraph? And so, guide for that, right? It's not like a hard and fast rule. It's a guide, right? It's tip top. What does that mean? So, in your writing, for example, if the time is changing, and the time changing can be anywhere between a few moments later, a few moments can be a few minutes, right? You could even, like, even if it's seconds, if the time is changing and in that change of time something's happening, right? So you can possibly start a new paragraph. Okay. If the place that you're talking about is changing, start a new paragraph. If the topic that you were talking about is changing, right, start a new paragraph. And possibly the person, right? So to exemplify this, what I'll do, if you just give me a moment, right? I'll put it up. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen. Okay, I think it's this one. It's been a while since I've seen this. By the way, can you, like, I mean, there's really nothing to hear, so can you, like, see the screen, the video? Yes? No? Guys, can you see my screen? Okay. So I muted the video because really, there's nothing to hear. So just let's. Right, so you get the idea, right? And there are other videos you can obviously take a look at, for practice. Right, there are lots of them, short videos, perhaps longer ones. Right? Okay, now what I'm going to do is put up a sample on screen, and I want you to try and paragraph. Just give me a moment. Okay, so I'm putting that up on screen. Now, right, here's a text that I've, it was paragraphed, but I put it all together again. So just read this and tell me, you can use the audio or chat or whatever you're comfortable with. And you can tell me where I should paragraph. Sorry, just a minute. Glitch. Let me put that back up. All right. Okay, so there it is again. So tell me where you think I should paragraph this thing. right. So any ideas, any recommendations, what to do here? Where should I, make the first, I mean, like separate the first and second like paragraph. The first place where I should, in the text, the first point where I should consider starting a new paragraph. Guys, are you even there? All right. So, right, we have one coming in from good morning. Okay, so that is um, right. Okay, where next? Because there's going to be more than one paragraph in this thing. I can tell you. Right, there are about 3 or 4 in total. Yeah. Okay. Right. We all have internet issues. I can understand. Haris, beta, are you there? You're really quiet today. So, right, we started a new paragraph from good morning. Where else can we put in a new paragraph? Right, separate the text to form a new paragraph. Okay, so you're back now, right? So, do you know what we're doing? We are, right, we have this text and, right, we have this text and we are, paragraphing it. We're separating it into paragraphs. Right, so it was like this, and on, who unfortunate, like I think it's bad. Okay, so on said that, right, we should start a new paragraph from good morning. So what do you say? Where else should we do a paragraph from? Guys, it shouldn't be that hard. Take a guess. What's your understanding? It shouldn't be that hard to, break this up into paragraphs. Actually, let me tell you, there is no, like, there is no strict rule. I've already mentioned that. Right? It's how you want to organize it. Also, sometimes paragraphs can be shorter. Like, what students normally do is they count the number of lines. Right? So a paragraph should be like these number of lines long, and there is no that means nothing. After the missing items from the period during the tour, yes, because that is sort of changing the topic. Okay, so I think you maybe missed, Haris, you missed my explanation about how to paragraph. It's not that you always start a new paragraph with a dialogue or turning point. It could be, it doesn't necessarily need to be a turning point. Okay, if it is a turning point, then definitely you will need a paragraph, but not always, since like that's what you're saying. And yes, on beta, because during the tour that is a change of topic from the students gathering their belongings and all of that to actually starting the tour. So that is one place where you will paragraph, right? Any other? I'm telling you that you can have at least one more over here. So tell me what. I'm sorry, just a minute. Uh, yeah, you can have one more, and then I'll share mine. Right. So in these lines, you can probably break up another paragraph. On their way back, exactly, right? So that is again the time, and the time is changing. The topic, or however you want to categorize them. Now, right, for this one, you separate from good morning, but if you just look a bit, before this, right, up till this point, the chatter and laughter, that is, the students from the school in the bus, right? Over here, you can see that the place has changed. Now it's at the museum, right? And so the good morning will go with this. At the museum, they were greeted by the tour guide, and then the dialogue. What you could do is, for the dialogue, you could, not start a new paragraph, but go to the next line, possibly. That is one way of doing it, right? In your writing, because it will be on paper, the safest way to indicate a new paragraph is to leave a line, and I recommend you do that. Okay, do not, do not like leave an indent, right? The two finger space that we taught in school from the next line or something. Just leave a whole line, even if you just used one. If you added one word in what you're writing, leave a whole new line in between and move to the next one to start writing, and that will indicate that you're starting a new paragraph. That is the safest way to go. And when you're doing your writing for each paragraph, I've seen students do this. Do not put any sorts of bullet points or stars or arrows or anything, because that will make them bullet points instead of paragraphs. Okay, what I'll do is, right, the meeting is about to end. I'll share a document with two texts, and as homework, I want you to try and paragraph them, and then I'll share the results on Friday, right, in class. I'll show you how it should have been done, and you can check with your work. Okay. So we'll meet again on Friday, inshallah. On, you can ask your question in the group. I don't understand what you're asking. Please ask it in the group.